Welcome to the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another great guest. He comes highly recommended by a lot of people out there because he's able to help a lot of people become more and more successful. He has over $250 million worth of real estate in his portfolio. He's coached hundreds and hundreds of people to become more and more successful in real estate. And not only is he an expert in investing in real estate, but he also comes with 27 plus years of experience in IT and telecom as well. He's been helping people find out what is possible, whether it's building wealth with real estate, developing scalable business systems, finding a new purpose in their careers, and on and on, finding out how to take big ideas and making that relatable and also actionable for people. Mainly, he's out there helping people live their lives to the fullest. So please welcome real estate investor, high performance coach, and multifamily investing expert, Mr. Jens Nielsen.
Well, thank you, Fong. I'm excited about being here today, and I love your energy.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here. Always a joy speaking with people who has such great success in investing, but also coming from different backgrounds and being able to kind of navigate through like life stuff to become who you are today. So let's start off there. How did you become this person who has a great real estate portfolio, and then also transitioning from there to coaching people to becoming successful in real estate as well?
Yeah, it's always been a long journey, right? As you can see, gray hair and stuff. I'm not a young man anymore, but I've been so I'm originally from Denmark. I came to the United States 30 years ago, as a young man, just trying to see what was out there, exploring new things, excitement about the big world. Came here to the US and did the typical thing, right? Got an education, went to college in the US and did all that and worked for multiple corporations throughout my life, from small startups to big corporations to local governments to Native American tribes, did all the things. But then in my mid 40s, roughly 10 plus years ago, I was like, man, I don't want to continue to do this for the rest of my life, working for somebody else. So then that was where the decision point came to, hey, it's time to start my own business, do something different. And I decided to move into real estate then because I felt like that was a way to disconnect my time from my income, right? Trying to develop that passive income.
Mhm.
And then that started, and I realized it wasn't as passive as I thought, but it started to grow and we started, getting bigger and bigger and partnering with other people and so on, right? So it's been a 10-year journey, this year since I bought my first property. And, I'm doing this full time now, plus the coaching and all that. So that's, very quickly, and I'm happy to dive into any aspects of that story.
That is absolutely incredible. Within a short period of time, 10 years, you've built this amazing portfolio. And I also like the fact that you mentioned that, yeah, you wanted to get into passive income with real estate and then kind of realize it's not as passive as it is. But if you're able to build it the right way, real estate can be very, very beneficial. So I guess my first question is when it comes to what was that very first deal that you got into? Did you jump right into like multifamily or was it a single family? How did you get into the real space?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people will start with a single family house because it seems like quote unquote safe and easy to understand. I was living in Colorado in a small town there, and there wasn't really it didn't make sense to buy anything there. So I was like, well, if I'm going to go outside my local market, I got to just try to scale because I don't want to buy, 4 hours away single family houses. That seems insane. So I actually, as I looked around a little bit locally, I then I was introduced to a broker in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I started investing. And he was, focusing on multifamily. So in that first year, we bought multiple multi-unit properties. We actually ended up buying two 4-unit properties and an 11 unit in our first year of investing. Yeah, so that was 10 years ago.
Wow. Now, a lot of gurus out there are saying, yeah, stay within your local market. That's where you should start. Start with, let's say, a one bedroom, a single family kind of thing. So kind of ease your way into it. For you, you just jump. Not only did you jump over to multifamily, but you went outside of your local market as well. How risky was that at that period of time in your mind, and how did you mitigate that risk?
Yeah, I mean, imagine you're living in downtown San Francisco, you're probably not going to buy a single family house and rent it out. So sometimes we are forced by market reality to go beyond our local market, right? And where I was living, it didn't make sense to buy rentals, single family rentals. So I was kind of forced to go outside my market. And it didn't feel that risky to me. First of all, the numbers involved were rather small. I mean, some of it was 150, $200,000 properties back then. So that didn't feel, I mean, yeah, it felt scary to some degree, but not like, oh my God, this is huge. So that was a big thing to just think about that, what's the downside? What can go wrong here? And then, you know, I also realized I wanted to be an investor, not an owner operator. Because I do think people get stuck in that owner operator mindset with like, well, the toilet is leaking. I can just go and fix it. Excuse me, fix it myself or something. I was just on a call with a client and he's like, well, yeah, I went down and turned our Airbnb and it only took me an hour and a half. I was like, no, that's not true. It took you an hour to drive down there, an hour and a half to turn, an hour to drive back. What was that worth? $100? I don't think so. You need to outsource that, right? So I started very early on that I was like, I don't want to get caught up in this owner operator mindset because then that you can't scale that way,
Yeah.
right? So that was a real big early insight for me.
Mm. Now, for people out there who wants to jump into the real estate space, they goes, well, that's easy for you to say. You have money. Is that true? Is it true that you had to have X amount of funds in order to jump into multifamily?
I mean, so I recognize that real estate is capital heavy, right?
Yeah.
You need to invest because you're buying an asset. I had, luckily been saving and investing in the stock market for years, so we had some money there. So that, we had to put money in and buy it. Like I wasn't rich by any stretch of the imagination, right? I had enough to pay a down payment on a couple of properties. And again, we're not, we're talking 20, 30, 40K, right? Now I get it. There are people listening who may not have any money whatsoever. So that doesn't mean you can't do it, right? I don't believe in these gurus like, oh, no money down, all this stuff. Yeah, maybe at one point that worked, but look at your resources, right? My resources, what I had some capital. I I was studying stuff. What I didn't have was a bunch of time because I was still working and doing other things, right? If you don't have any money, maybe you can be a resource for somebody like me who doesn't have time and so on, right? So just figure that out, right? I mean, but you have to realize going into real estate is going to require capital one way or another, either your own capital and your investors' capital, right? And that's how we were able to scale too. We were partnering with investors for that growth.
Now, you mentioned that you had a broker who was outside of your local market who specialized in the multifamily area. How important was it for you to have the right partner? Like I'm assuming they did um, a lot of the work at the beginning to kind of get you to be comfortable with one jumping out of your market and jumping into multifamily. So what was it that you did to make sure that this is the right person for you to work with you and kind of leverage information with?
So you're 100% correct, right? Without my broker who I'm still working with, who is my partner now on some deals, I guess I was blessed because I was asking around in my, where I was living. I said, who do I need to know down in Albuquerque and stuff? And this guy's name came up. So I call him up and a couple of things there. First of all, he had the patience to work with a newer investor back 10 years ago, right? He, loves just like that interaction with the newer investor because he didn't, I mean, the first deal, he probably made 2 or 3 thousand bucks, right? I mean, and he's already kind of a big deal. So it was just interesting to for him to just invest that time in me because he saw that was valuable to him, right? So and some brokers won't give you the time of day, right? So I was lucky to find somebody that was very generous with his time and so on. Now, you're not going to always meet these types of people, but again, it's a people business. So, you have to create those relationships with the brokers so that they will call you up when there's a property on the market. They will help you find the right property. They will come to go along with you, right? And as I said, a couple years later, we bought 38 units together and we've partnered on the warehouse last year and stuff like that. So we've done stuff together.
Right. And as you say, a lot of this stuff is a people business. You have to have the right relationships. You have to have the right connections as well. And you kind of mentioned before that if somebody right now has no money, what kind of value can they add to the group or to the partnership? And you said that this person who may or may not have money could be partnered up with you or could come with up to you who doesn't have a lot of time and kind of leverage that information. So what would you look for in somebody who doesn't have the money, who's just up and coming, to be able to go, you know what, I'll give you a chance. Because there's a lot of people like that out there who just needs that chance and they need a chance to showcase what they can do. So what are those characteristics or I don't know, background that you're looking for so that it actually helps them make that connection?
Yeah, and I get this question, right? What I don't like is somebody coming to me and say, "Hey, Jens, how can I help you?" Then they're putting the problem back on me. I say, "Well, I don't know anything about you and what your skills and so on are." Right? That's not a helpful question to ask. What's helpful for them is to, research me, get to know me, go to my event, get to know my business, and then it's like, well, I've noticed that your social media presence sucks. Okay, yeah, that's not untrue. I can help you with that if you give me a chance to do things. Okay, well, that's maybe some value to me. Or, I would love to just drive around and do driving for dollars and find some good deals for you. And so it's like, oh, that's valuable, right? Figure out what I need so you come with that initiative versus asking me what help I need because, you know, I probably have a blind spot of what help I need, right? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. And sometimes it's that extra little bit of research that people do that also makes them stand out. Because if they're able to come up with a solution to a problem that you actually did not realize you had, then that makes them stand out even more because they go, wow, I never thought about that, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to for people who's starting off right now, you jumped into apartments and multifamily. Would you still recommend that for people now who's just starting off?
So real estate goes through cycles, right? I mean, it's up and down and sideways. We've gone through some interesting cycles in the last 10 years. I would say that multifamily is still a great asset class, but right now you definitely have to go through a lot of deals to figure out something that makes sense just because, interest rates are higher and expenses are higher and so on, right? So you can't overpay right now because you're going to get crushed.
Yep.
So yeah, there's always going to be value in real estate. And I think right now maybe the values are in maybe distressed properties. Somebody bought it, paid 2 months, and they need to get out, and you can get it for a deal or something like that. So there's always going to be a need for that, or people need a place to live, but you just have to be cautious. I mean, we always have to be cautious, but right now you definitely have to be ultra cautious in your projections for your rent growth and your expenses and everything else, right? So, I would definitely, and go to the right markets, right? I mean, right now we have some stuff in the upper Midwest and the winter has just been horrendous, right? And that's very expensive and very challenging, right? So there's always things like that you need to pay attention to.
Exactly. Now, you kind of talked about this at the beginning too, about doing real estate property at a time where you're trying to build up that passive income doesn't necessarily become passive income. It needs to be another thing that you do in order for you to actually scale it and make it profitable. Because if you actually do the numbers backwards for somebody who goes, hey, you know what? I'm getting passive income $300-400 a month. Hey, you need 10, 20 properties. Multiply that by the time that you're going to be there and dealing with all kind of stuff. So the moment you realize that, what did you do for yourself to kind of change that up so that you're able to take yourself out of it and make it actually profitable?
Yeah, because you're right. I mean, my goal was initially to have $10,000 a month in income, right? Passive income. And I had kind of made the math and it was very linear and so on. And that could probably have been possible to do it. I could have probably in 10 years had scaled, saved enough and bought enough and so on, right? But you're right about the fact that it takes a lot of capital to get to that point, right? Let's say you get 10% of your money. Well, you need $1 million bucks of invested capital. That takes time to get to that point. So what I realized is that, well, I think really it was a question about scaling and speed. So I was like, okay, I can go to slow route, I can continue to work, I can go to slow route and take 10 years to do this, or I can actually make an active business out of this, start helping other investors and stuff invest in real estate by finding the deals, putting a deal together, and then raising money. That's where it becomes a business instead of a passive income play, right? Which then adds all this stuff about, the ways you can earn money through acquisition fees and asset management fees and splits and so on. So that's where it becomes a business. And I realized that probably 3 or 4 years in, I was like, man, I need to create a business out of this and really put all my energy into it.
Now, when you were jumping into this whole new space 10 years ago, was there anybody around your sphere of influence that goes, you know what, don't do this. It's why waste your time? You already have a great thing going here with all this other stuff you're doing. Why jump into real estate? Why jump into business? Why jump into investments and all that kind of stuff?
Uh, I mean, some people are probably thinking that. I had one guy tell me later, it's like, man, I didn't think you were going to be successful, but he didn't say anything until afterwards. So I didn't really have, I mean, I was kind of private with my group, with my core friend group, because I knew they may not understand. And you have to be careful about who you listen to, right? So what I started doing was going to events, getting around the people that were doing what I wanted to do so I can get the right inspiration versus listening to people that had a small mindset there,
Uh,
right? So that really helped getting around people like, oh, this is possible, right? And start surrounding and partnering with people that were at that next level, right? So that was really where I thought the change did, maybe
yeah.
some people thought I shouldn't do it, but I never heard from them. So
And I think that's very, very important. Lots of people out there are unable to differentiate who to share and who not to share information with. And especially when they're within a group of friends or family who's so comfortable in the way of life that they're used to, that anything new is scary.
that's
And then
right.
they
Yeah.
share all this stuff, and all of a sudden you get pulled back down into that whole mindset. And then being able to recognize, hey, if you put yourself into another group who's always doing it, then all of a sudden you elevate your mindset to be more like that, and then just turning that switch on and off depending on who you're talking to. And later on, you're switching on into another mindset, and that is the coaching and helping others becoming successful in what you do and all kind of stuff. How was that transition for you? What was different in transitioning into that space than transitioning into the real estate space?
Yeah, it was kind of natural to some degree, right? Because it's always been, as I was, in the corporate world, the last few years, I was a manager and I had people reporting to me, and I loved coaching and mentoring and training them to be more than they were, right? So I already was doing that at work, kind of informally, but I was like, this is really fun. This is interesting because I was doing all the self-development work, right? Then as I got into the real estate side, as soon as I didn't, buy one property and say, hey, I'm an expert, listen to me, right? It was after, 5 years of doing this and buying a lot of deals and learning a lot. It's like, hey, I've learned enough that I can teach the next guy how to buy their first deal, right? So it went from mentoring. I went into mentoring first, right? And then I started really loving that. But then I realized most people don't get stuck on the technical aspects of it. They can figure out the underwriting, they can figure out all those pieces. What hold most people back is their own courage to take action, their fear and their productivity and so on. So I started realizing, oh, I need to continue to teach people how to invest in real estate, but I also need to help them change their mindset so that they can get that peak success, and so on. That's what's really important. And then I realized it doesn't only apply to real estate, it applies to all kinds of businesses, right? So then I started just expanding out as real estate, goes through cycles. I can expand out into other types of businesses and support that, right? So that's really where that shift came from.
And I think that's the beauty of business is that it's applicable to any industry. the concepts are kind of the same, the mindset's kind of the same. The product and service may not be the same, and you don't have to love the product and service. If you love business, then you could kind of apply that to everywhere. Now, you mentioned that lots of people are stuck not on the technical stuff. It's the fear, it's the action, it's the fear of the unknown and all kinds of stuff. So, what is your secret to helping people get past that fear of the unknown or fear of the risk?
Yeah, I mean, it's what most people that the people that are successful, and I've had some clients that they never made the shift, but I've had most of my clients make the shift. And what they have necessity. Their necessity is so strong that they are going to do the work, right? So, if you are drowning, your necessity for getting up above the water is like the most important thing, right? And not saying that comparing that, but if the it's nice, it'll be nice to invest in real estate or nice to start a business. No, nice is not going to cut it. It becomes so important to them that come hell or high water, they're going to do it. So we always like look at that vision, that necessity to make the changes, because when that's strong, then the desire to start moving towards it becomes much better. If it's just a nice to have, it's like, well, yeah, I can coach you, but I don't think you're going to actually make the necessary changes towards that. Now, it doesn't mean I won't coach you. I'll coach you in maybe getting more joy and happiness and fulfillment in your current life. But if you're looking to change, I need to feel that power, that burning desire to make the change, right?
Do you find that that motivation stems is stronger if the result could be negative or positive? So for instance, you go,
Oh,
hey, they have to be molded, like they really want to have make it work because if you don't get out of the water, you're gonna drown and you die. That's bad, right? So do you kind of change things into a way into their minds where, hey, if you don't do this, it's gonna be so bad for you that you're gonna suffer for the rest of your life? Or do you go, if you do this, it's gonna be great? Like which way do you get more results?
yeah. So basically, it's a negative, a positive reinforcement, right? Yeah. Trust me, people will do more to get out of pain
Mm,
than to move towards pleasure, if that makes sense.
yeah.
The pain I was in was like a long corporate job. I didn't hate my job, but I was like, man, this is not going to be the rest of my life. So my pain was stronger than the quote unquote pleasure I would get, right? So when we talk about that with clients, we need to really understand the pain. What is painful about the situation that they're in that they don't like, right?
Mm,
Because people will be very motivated out of pain. Because humans have three levels of motivation. One is to get out of pain. You're drowning or you're not eating or whatever. The second motivation is getting stuff, money, status, houses, travel, whatever. That's the second one. Which, once the pain goes away, we will move towards that. And then the third level is like contribution and giving back and having meaning and so on, right? But I always go, especially when I'm talking to new potential clients, like they need to understand that the pain is their biggest motivator, and that's the
mm.
one that I'm going to help them get out of.
Right. I think there was a great quote that I've heard one of my coaches or one of those speakers say is like the pain of remaining the same is greater than the pain of change, and that's when you're willing to make the change. I liked how you mentioned that three motivators was the pain, the stuff that you get, and then also the contribution. I always thought that there was a fourth one, and that is a spite. Where I'll show you. You don't believe me? I'll show you. That's the other motivator.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good one. But that's another negative one, I think. So
One thing that you're also very good at is you make big ideas seem more realistic, relatable, and in a way to allow people to actually take action on it. So what is the way you do that? And do you have an example as to something that was so big, so outrageous to somebody that you were able to go, you know what? If you look at it this way, it's actually not that bad.
yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by the fact that whatever they want to achieve looks so big and so low, so long term and so complicated that they don't even want to take the first step, right? You know, it's a little bit like, if you build a skyscraper, well, oh my God, that's a lot of work, right? But if you don't start, you're never going to get there. So that's a little bit of that the help that I do, right, is well, let's take the first. So I break it down because I think very logically too. So let's break it down. So like I had a client that I've been working for like 5 years, and he had a great engineering business. Him and his partner had a small engineering business. They were doing well. They were making good money. But he's like, man, I'm tired of engineering. I want to get out. I want to get into real estate. But I don't really like to partner with people and all these other excuses. Like, okay, well, first of all, we got to get over the fact that you don't like to partner with people because if you want to scale, you need to start partnering, which he did. And then he started, partnering. He's like, oh my God, I should have done this forever. Then he started partnering with people. It's like, okay, the next thing you do is like, we need to start finding ways for you to buy some multifamily properties, right? So you can get out of this. And he did that with his partners and slowly grew that. So at some point, he was able to quit his engineering job. And now he's living in Spain for with his family, like, because that was a dream he had to live overseas, right? So all that stuff. But if I had said 5 years ago, all right, Eric, you're going to live in Spain 5 years. That's what your dream is. His head would have exploded because he couldn't put the pieces together, right? So you also, as a coach, you have to protect people from getting overwhelmed by their own dreams, right?
I also like the fact that you said that when it comes to the you're painting that picture for them, right? You're breaking it down, and they're able to kind of see a little bit beyond what's going to come. And if they don't see the little bit of beyond, then they go, you know what? Why should I do it? Kind of thing, right? So I like how you break that down, which is very, very interesting. So something else that you're doing now is also the coaching, the speaking, and all that kind of stuff. What got you more excited about that too? Because you can't really do the coaching stuff without going out there to do the speaking stuff, which is really different than like the technical stuff that you're so used to doing.
Yeah, no, that's uh, so the reason why I am so enthusiastic about the coaching is the real estate is, hey, that's just buying properties and running properties. That is just work. I mean, I don't do it, I don't manage it myself, but it's work. It's not always very fulfilling. Yeah, it's nice to get money, but beyond that, it doesn't seem that fulfilling to me. So I had to find something that felt really like to lighten me up and felt like I had meaning and purpose and significance. And that's where the coaching just became more and more important. I think as we grow older, right, we have our basic needs met and all the stuff. It becomes important to help the next generation be successful. So that's why I went down that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. You have to get your name and your face out there, right? And I've always been a little bit of an introvert. I mean, my career has been computer science, sitting behind a desk and a computer all day. I never had to go out and sell myself and my services. So that was a necessary growth for me was to get there, right? So I would, as part of somebody's mentoring program, I would ask, can I get on stage? And I would freak out when I was, right? And I'd be like, yeah, and then I'll be very quiet. Whereas I was like, okay, well, the next level is to start my own event. So for like 3 or 4 years, we ran an event in Denver, Colorado about getting people together for real estate investing and masterminding and stuff. And that gave more courage to show up. Then that shifted. Now we scaled it down to like really inviting the high performers, and we actually do it at my house here in New Mexico in Santa Fe. To do that. And actually, tonight when we're recording, I'm going to an event where this is a small thing, but I'm gonna speak to a high-powered group of people, and I'm excited about that. So it excites me now because I'm talking about something that really is so important to me that my fear gets overridden by the excitement about what I'm doing.
Do you recommend that for people to get past that whole speaking fear to just throw yourself in the fire? Is that the way to go?
Yeah, I mean, some people do Toastmasters and all these other things, right? And that's great. But what I don't like, what I think people they have to be careful about, don't spend all your life preparing for something. Just go out there and do it and iterate, right? Whatever the hell that is, it could be a small thing. You could speak at a meetup, you could speak at a small event, right? Just throw yourself out there and see how it goes, right?
Yeah. I so relate to that comment right there. A lot of clients that I have, they go, you know what? I really wish that I can do this, or I plan on doing this. I would like to do real estate someday. I'm like, well, start doing it now. Start researching, start reading about it, start connecting with realtors or whatnot. And then when you are able to, you could just go rather than you're ready to. Now you have to start at the beginning and start researching and building all those relationships. Start
Yeah.
now, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, you talked about how you need to be able to connect with people and talk to people now and being on stages. And you mentioned that one of your clients there goes, you know what, I don't like partnering. And most likely it's because he doesn't want to work with people. Because everybody knows a problem usually starts with a first and last name. So what is your recommendation when it comes to shy, introverted people who don't like, going out there, talking to people, working with people? How do you help them get over that?
Yeah, and again, it is, I mean, first of all, it's a necessity, right? It becomes a necessity to do it. So the clients that I work with that I really struggle with that, I'm like, okay, you don't need to be the person that's out there talking to the brokers and all the things. Just find partners that shore up your weaknesses, right? If you're more introverted, partner with somebody that's more extroverted. Yeah, you do have to go to some places to meet these people. But again, it doesn't have to mean going to a conference of 500 people. It could be a small meetup or something like that. So that's one thing I encourage. Just start small, start local, continue to go, and maybe you'll find some person there that you like and you invite them for a coffee or whatever and have a deeper conversation. And then the other thing I remind people, right? If you go to a conference, there's 100, 200, 500 people, everybody feels a little bit uncertain, right? A little bit nervous. Yeah, maybe there's a few people that are just doesn't have any fear, but we all have a little bit of fear, right? I've been to God knows how many conferences. I still feel a little like fear when I show up, and I realize everybody else does. So I'm actually helping people by going up and talking to them, right? And so on. So, we make up this thing in our minds that everybody's got their shit figured out, pardon my swearing, but that's not the case, right?
Very, very true. So aside from that get together you have tonight, what other stuff are you working on right now that you're excited for?
Yeah, so living in my community, I like to give back to my community, right? So I've run events here, meetups, and so on. That's big for me. The other thing that I'm excited about, I mean, we talked about multifamily real estate. I've shifted into more industrial stuff, and we're working on some projects here locally that we're taking a warehouse, converting it into some artist space and stuff like that. So now you know, I don't need to buy real estate to be financially successful anymore. I want to buy real estate if it feels like this is a an interesting project that lightens me up and so on, right? So that I'm excited about, right? I'm excited about different coaching and stuff like that. But I've realized in entrepreneurship is like you can just try different things, what see what you like, see if it stick. If it doesn't stick, try something else, right? It's always iterating and trying new things.
So with all these new things that you're trying and these exciting new projects you're working on, what are those ideal either partners or clients that would fit right into your circle right now?
Yeah, I mean, really, somebody that's excited about new things, have a creative mind, or that's on the partnership side, right? Somebody that's excited about new things, creative mindset, on the coaching and stuff. People that have a growth mindset, they realize that there's another level. They just don't quite know how to get to that other level, right? That's a coach's job is to help them realize their dreams, right? We're not doing therapy, we're not going through trauma. We're like, okay, you have this dream, well, let me help you achieve it, right? That's the kind of people that I love working with because it makes my life a little bit easier if they have certain goals because then you can kind of work towards that and those specific results.
Now, to show that not everything is smooth sailing, when I ask this question, I usually get like a very, very long answer. So, uh, for somebody who's done so much real estate and investing and being very, very successful in it, what was the biggest failure that you learned from?
Yeah, it has not all been success, right? Yeah, I mean, we had to sell a deal 6 months ago that we was not doing very well. I mean, we lost some investor money and other things because the deal was just struggling so badly, right? And the lesson there is, I mean, these are very practical lessons around the type of debt you have. You can have long-term, low leverage debt, about the market you're buying in, about the business plan. So a lot of lessons there learned about keeping your optimism in check, right? Don't think everything is always going to work out and all these different things, right? So those are some of the biggest, that's a painful lesson because it's, no, nobody wants to lose money, right? So that's
Yeah.
something that's real there in that regard. But I also look at, hey, this has now taught me some important lessons that I can carry forward and not repeat in the future, hopefully, right?
Wanted to add to that that answer that you have there, and that is, well, add a question to that is, and that is, when you had to have those very difficult conversations with your investors, how did you approach that? Because that's something that a lot of people have struggled with, whether it's losing investor money or failing on a project or not having the results that you want and all kind of stuff. Those conversations are very, very difficult. How do you navigate
Yeah.
through?
Yeah, no, it's true, right? Because, there was, a friend of mine that was in one of these deals, right? Um, you have to be transparent throughout, right? Don't say that things are going well and it's like, oh, sorry, it didn't go as well as I've been telling you, right? So be transparent in sharing the challenges and so on. So it's not a surprise and said, well, we were struggling with this deal, right? There's some real issues here that we may or may not be able to overcome, right? And then have the courage to pick up the phone and say, well, this is what's going on. It looks like, there's going to be some money lost. Let's have a conversation, right? And just hear them out because everybody wants to be heard, right? So everybody that lost money there, I talked to them. There wasn't that many people, right? But I talked to them and say, hey, this is the situation. I'm sorry it didn't work out, right? And I take it, very personally, but have the courage to do that. And yes, that's not easy. I mean, that is hard to have those conversations. But it also creates respect that I didn't just disappear, right? And they couldn't get hold of me.
And normally in those scenarios, the person like for yourself, I'm sure you did something in the back end later to kind of make it up. Whether you kept them in a different deal or you had them involved some other way, what are some of the things that you were able to do to kind of smooth things over?
Yeah, it's important, right? And I think one of the things as an investor need to realize nobody would like, if you had a bunch of money, you wouldn't go and buy like one stock in the stock market, right? Because, if you bought Nvidia 10 years ago, you would have think you were a genius, but if you bought something else and it tanked, you'd have felt like you were, not making the best choice. So it's important to understand that every investment category or asset class has it has a distribution and it has long tails, right? Long tails in the negative side and long tails in the positive side. So if you buy one deal and it happens to be in the negative side, you're going to think real estate investing is bad. If you are invested in a very, very good deal, you're going to think it's fantastic, right? If you're in the middle there and you invest in multiple deals, yeah, the one that sucks is going to be overcome by the ones that are good ones. So I think that one investor that I'm thinking about, he was in a deal with me that made 350% return in 3 years.
Wow.
So, so he made a lot of money there. Unfortunately, he lost a little bit in this one deal, but that's where you spread your risk out a little bit, right?
Mhm. Awesome. Let's put you back on the world stage, and you have a few minutes to share with everybody a message, something that you want people to remember Jan's for.
I think the message is that we all have to go towards what feels important and significant for us, right? When business is there to solve problems for people, but can we find a deeper meaning behind that? Then we're going to continue to show up for that deeper meaning, right? And that's what I really feel connected to in the work I do, both in real estate, but definitely also in the coaching and consulting, right? I want to have a deep impact on people. And once we find that, you're not going to work anymore. You're just doing something that feels effortless
Uh,
to you every single day.
and I think that also goes towards the skills that you have to help people find that other purpose in their current career. so that it revitalizes their energy. So how does one find that deeper meaning? Like if you could share a little bit about that process, like is it questions they've asked or is it things that they start noticing? How do they find that new purpose?
Yeah, I mean, I do a process where I take people through a vision building exercise, right? And that's that all has to do with, again, what is this, what stuff do you want, right? But there's not the stuff that we want, it's the experiences we want. What experiences do we truly want in life? That's a key thing there. How do we need to grow both, skill wise and self improvement and so on. And then the last part is, how do we give back? So once we get a clear picture of what our vision is, then we can start moving towards something. People said goals, right? Oh, I want to make $1 million. I want to have 100 properties, whatever it is. Those are just goals. And if they don't understand the reason behind it, when stuff gets hard, they stop doing it, right? So we need to turn it upside down or whatever you want to call it and really focus on the reason, the why behind it, right? So, it could be family, it could be religion, it could be your country, it could be your community, it could be something else, but it has to be something beyond just you. And I think that's where we can really create something that's so powerful that we'll continue to work towards even when it gets difficult.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Those are great words to live by. Before I let you go, I got five rapid fire questions for you. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. So
Okay.
you're stranded on a desert island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence. What would that be?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
One food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence. You'll still be healthy. What would that be?
Cheeseburgers.
Awesome. You're in the Olympics and you get to win the gold medal in any event. Which one would that be?
Cycling, road cycling.
Very cool. Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, we would love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?"
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, let's hang out, let's have some fun, let's get to know each other. But first, I'm hungry." And you go, "No, no problem. Harrison, come right in. I got the perfect meal prep for you. It's my special dish. What is that dish?"
That would be vegetarian stir fry.
Nice choice. And finally, give me a number from 1 to 5.
3.
One, two, three. Oh, so the word is soda pop. If you had to use this as a metaphor for success, how's success like soda pop?
It is sweet and bubbly.
When it's all good, it's all sweet and bubbly. Thank you very much. So that's how success is like soda pop. Once again, thank you very much for your time and your words of wisdom here. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Last words?
No, if anybody want to reach out to me, then go to my website. Is my first jensnielsen.us. My phone number is on there. There's a link if anybody want to book a call with me, and I love to just jump on a call and talk about real estate investing, coaching, or anything else. That's my free offer to anybody who's listening.
Awesome. Well, so everybody out there, if you're looking for somebody who can help you with real estate, get into multifamily stuff and coaching, make sure you reach out to Jens here and find out what he can do for you. Much appreciate your time once again. And again, for everybody out there, today is the day to talk your peak potential. He's Jens. I'm Fong. See you later.